Okay, second video of the week, also on the Red Scare, so one for you Year 11 to help you with your revision for the mocks and your eventual exams. This one is on the Rosenberg case, the case of, just in case you've forgotten their first names, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Okay, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg case, again another key event that we've looked at right at the start of the year relating to the Red Scare. So again, a bit of contextual knowledge for you. In 1949, the USSR, Soviet Union, had tested their first atomic bomb. And this obviously sent Cold War tensions into overdrive. America are now genuinely terrified of the USSR because up until now they've been probably a little bit cocky, a bit arrogant. We've got the atomic bomb, you don't want to mess with us because we've used it already on Japan, and we're not afraid to use it again. Now the USSR have got their own atomic bomb, and it amps up, as I say, the tension in the Cold War massively, because now you've got the two world superpowers who hate each other, both with atomic bombs, and it's made the world a much dangerous place. And naturally that feeds this Red Scare even further in America. People are even more scared of communism, more scared of the Soviet Union, and it amps up, as I say, the fear and the Red Scare in general in America. Now in February 1950, a man called Klaus Fuchs had been, I should explain who Klaus Fuchs was. Klaus Fuchs, if you've forgotten, was a nuclear physicist. He'd been heavily involved in making the first atomic bomb as part of the Manhattan Project with Britain and America and Canada. He'd played a key role in developing the nuclear bomb, the atomic bomb, and he was arrested in February 1950 in Britain for passing on secrets, nuclear secrets, to the Soviet Union. He was arrested in Britain, and he was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Found guilty, sentenced to 14 years in prison, served just under 10 years in Wakefield Prison, funnily enough, so just down the road from school is where Klaus Fuchs served his prison sentence. Now, you've forgotten, you're probably thinking, why is Mr. Austin telling us about Klaus Fuchs? I thought this was about the Rosenberg case. Well, it was Klaus Fuchs who, when he was arrested, started naming names basically about who else was involved in this conspiracy, basically, who else was involved in passing on nuclear secrets to the Soviet Union. And one person who Fuchs named was a man called David Greenglass. Okay? Well, actually, that's not strictly true. Fuchs had named another man, a man called Harry Gold, and Harry Gold had then given the name of David Greenglass. But regardless, David Greenglass is accused of being involved in this spy ring, basically. He's been an accomplice of of Klaus Fuchs, and Greenglass was Ethel Rosenberg's brother. So he was obviously the brother-in-law of Julius Rosenberg, and he's the brother of Ethel Rosenberg. So that's where the connection comes in. Klaus Fuchs arrested, and then eventually David Greenglass is named, and then Greenglass is connected to the Rosenbergs, and that's how their names come into play. Now I'll just hold this up for a while so you can read it. As you can see there, Greenglass admitted that both Ethel Rosenberg and Julius Rosenberg, had passed on secrets to a Soviet agent in America. So Greenglass says, yep, they've both done it. They've handed over these nuclear secrets to a Soviet agent in America, and therefore, they're guilty of spying. Now, as I put here, since 1949, when the USSR had successfully tested their atomic bomb, the fear, as I've said this already, the fear of the Soviets and the fear of communism had increased massively, due to the potential for nuclear war. So, this, you got to remember, this is the context of it. There's this huge fear of communism, huge fear of the Soviet Union. So when Julius and Ethel Rosenberg and David Greenglass are, connected with this, you can imagine just how the American public react to this. They're terrified. Here are some regular, ordinary American people passing over nuclear secrets, allegedly, to the Soviet Union, to the mortal enemy of the USA. So it's a massively controversial issue. Now, the evidence against the Rosenbergs wasn't particularly strong. In fact, David Greenglass had at first only implicated Julius Rosenberg. He'd said that he'd passed on information to Julius Rosenberg on a street corner, and then Julius Rosenberg had then gone and handed the information over to the Soviet Union. But afterwards, Greenglass was put under a little bit of pressure, and then eventually he changed his story, and he said that actually what had happened was he'd gone over to the Rosenbergs' house where both of them had been, and Greenglass had given the information over, and obviously they were both, then implicated, Julius and Ethel. Ethel had allegedly typed up these secrets, and then they'd gone and handed it over. But regardless of whether or not they were guilty, both of them were found guilty and were sentenced to death. And the Rosenbergs were executed on the 19th of June 1953. Okay, they'd been found guilty in 1951, and then they were executed in 1953, June 1953. And I've said this already, but just to remind you, the interesting kind of points to take from this are, well, first of all, the Rosenbergs were the only two American citizens, or civilians, to be executed for spying during the Cold War. So they immediately stand out for that reason. But as I've said already, naturally this massively increased the fear of communism in America because, ordinary American citizens are involved. They're revealed to be communist spies. People are going to start thinking, well, I wonder if my neighbours are communists, because, we've already discovered that this regular American couple, who no one would have suspected before, are allegedly communist spies. So, are my neighbours communist spies? Who knows? How well do you really know a person? And again, this fear just amps up even more. And again, they've been executed for it. So maybe there are some people thinking, oh God, I really hope I don't get implicated in some kind of communist conspiracy, because we've already seen that Julius and Ethel Rosenberg have been executed. It could be me. So, and again, there's this whole idea, we talked about this in class, how people become even more afraid of talking about politics, particularly if they're left wing, if they're more liberal, closer to communism on the political spectrum. That really amps up during the McCarthyism period. But this contributes to it as well. So it's another event in the Cold War, an early event in the Cold War, that, as I said, really fuels the Red Scare. So another key event. I will be making another video over the next week or so where I talk about the Korean War, and again how that amps up the Red Scare and makes the fear of communism even worse in America. But again, you've already had a video now on the Hollywood 10, McCarthyism, and now the Rosenbergs. So hopefully this is helping your revision with the Red Scare. Remember, there's videos already on the African American civil rights stuff that we've done. There's videos on World War I, go back and have a look at those, and on Germany. So Year 11, there is plenty for you to be using for your revision. Once again, I'll remind you that History Help is with me every Monday and Tuesday at, in M16 at lunch, 1 till 1:30. So hopefully see a few of you there next week and beyond. But other than that, hope this has been of some use for you, and I will see you very soon. Thank you very much.